Hello there everyone, and today I'll be talking to Ruby G Builds, developer of the RGB-Crescent, which is a flow-through suppressor design currently in beta. I should also preface that this was filmed about a month ago, and that means some of the issues mentioned may have already been fixed, as what usually happens with most betas. I'll mention a few of them at the end. If there's more information you want to know about the Crescent, or a different design you want to hear more about, let me know in the comments below, as I plan on doing more of these gaming-type videos. But with that out of the way, let's start this call. Ruby, I'll let you go explain, more about yourself quickly and give you a nice little brief introduction of what you do.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Ruby. I do GunCAD stuff. I just recently got into it like last year, and the Crescent is actually my first project. And it basically started out, so I started learning like the basics of CAD a little bit, did a few like projects, like a little headphone holder and all that. And I'm like, I think I'm ready for, something GunCAD related. But, designing a gun in and of itself, that's a really daunting task. And so I was thinking, what might be a little easier? Suppressors, silencers. It's just a tube, right? It'll be easy. And so ended up going to the Turns Dispensed beta rocket chat and just kind of asking around for like more information on silencers, because like I don't really have a gun background. I got my first gun last year, and so I don't really know that much. And luckily I got a bunch of really helpful resources, specifically from one person, Ethan Hall. Thank you so much for being so nerdy and wonderful. But yeah, one of the papers I got was an article from the Mexican, it's a research article that was contracted by the Mexican military testing the effectiveness of spiral baffle sound suppressors for 5.56 ammunition. And some of the results from that study were really, really interesting, especially since that it seemed like that design specifically produced better results than traditional designs. And so that kind of was just the original spark of inspiration for the Crescent. And so started working on that. I had to start the project over and over again because my computer is not that good, and Fusion kept either crashing or just not saving or something along those lines. So I spent a while working on it, and finally, when I had a version that I thought was good enough, found someone who wasn't in America to test it out for me, and the results were like really, really good. I sent the footage around to some people, including like Freeman, and he was like seriously impressed. And so I thought like, oh, hey, I actually have something that's like worth it here. And so just been kind of working and tinkering and optimizing it.
Let's go ahead at least mention this. So what, the Crescent is a flow-through design, right?
Yes. So basically what that means is that with normal like silencers, the baffle system actually traps the gases as it goes through, and these little pocket chambers. And so the gas gets trapped and kind of cycles around in there, and then either usually actually goes back through the barrel out the back of the gun. And some of it does go out the front of it, but that's one of the issues with traditional baffle designs, is that it just traps the gases and pushes it all back there. And one of the things with the suppressor that with the Crescent, I should say, when I first set out with it, was I wanted it to be printed vertically, not horizontally like all the others, because I just theory crafting a little bit. I've been talking with some of the beta testers about this recently, but when it is printed vertically, the surface area, the print speed per layer is a lot faster. And when it's a lot faster, that allows the layer adhesion between the layers to be a lot better. And so my figuring is that, with, doing it so short a layer print times, it'll increase the layer adhesion overall within the print. Like I love Hoffman's, like his research videos and the stuff. I have watched his thing on, the layer adhesion of ESUN based on printing temperature like 10 times now. Like his work is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Him and like CNC Kitchen stuff has been a lot of help for at least me. I want to say print speed does help, but it's like usually when people are printing faster, they're also turning on the fan a lot more, which gives you some confoundings, which kind of just makes it's so there's so many, you can fall down a very, very deep rabbit hole.
For real. And like with the Crescent, one of the other like design goals I had with it was I didn't want any sort of like additional support materials with it. Like basically one single print, just have it ready then and there. It takes 15 minutes or so of post-processing to thread it. But
so a monocore then, essentially, right?
Yeah, just one self-contained package.
The attachment style. So, does it have built-in threading already? Does it have an adapter? What is it? How does that work?
So the file as it stands and how it's going to be released, it is just a straight cylinder through there for the barrel. And the goal is for it to be heat threaded, either directly to the barrel or to some sort of externally threaded muzzle device. And my thought process with that is I'm guessing a lot of people's printers, those very tiny edges, especially for the threading, that's going to not be the strongest. And with, heat threading, that, not only molds the material around it, it slightly anneals it too, which I figure would help with strength overall.
Heck yeah, I would assume so as well. And it also gives, a direct fit also. a completely custom fit. But, threaded inserts, I guess, what size are we talking about if you wanted to go that route?
So through the beta testing process, I made various sizes for different people. I have a 1/2 inch one for, 1/8 by or 1/2 by 28 threading or 1/2 by 36 threading. I have a 0.625 for 5. I forgot the exact thing. It's basically for 762 slash something like that. And the other, I also did a 0.75 for externally threaded muzzle adapters because some beta testers found one that works really well with it for pretty cheap. Okay. And also made the one size for a universal mount, but I'm not sure how viable that one is.
Okay, well, yeah, that's the fun thing about the beta process. We'll figure it out, hopefully, more as we go on.
Yeah, exactly.
But another thing, too, I might as well ask is, heat threading it in, so it's going to be a very, very nice and tight seal. Is it also removable? Can you take it off whenever you want, or is it going to be kind of stuck?
Yes, you can actually take it off. According to some testers, it either, when you first do the heat threading, it either comes off pretty easily, or you might have to get a wrench to loosen a little bit. But once it's heat threaded, it's on there pretty good.
Okay, that's good to hear, because, yeah, printed threads they can work for certain things, but stuff with pressure, I would probably want something a little bit more, I guess, sturdier. So I'm glad to see that, yeah, the heat threading seems to makes sense why that would work pretty well.
Yeah, it creates a nice seal. I know some people were trying a little O-ring pressed up against it to help with it, but I mean, the heat threading, it does a pretty good job in and of itself.
Yeah, it gets a good seal, I would say. But how many rounds is it expected to last? Do we have a good round count right now?
Mm-hmm. So with one of the most successful one recorded on video so far, it lasted 90, 100 shots, just, straight through mag dumping and before it finally broke. But the way it broke was the front of it by that was attached to the barrel started limping a bit. And so it eventually got down to a point where one of the rounds hit the very front baffle and knocked it off. So it's not any catastrophic failure. It was more like a slow death.
Well, that leads to another good question of, do you have a complete round count of just, someone just shooting it, not necessarily mag dumping, or is it all just mag dumping? Because, mag dumping will obviously get the suppressor significantly hotter than just, one shot every 10 seconds.
As far as, doing the sort of slow firing just along, a longer period of time, it just seems to hold it pretty well. I think the real advantage of mag dumping with this design is actually stress testing it. And right, you can see, the manner in which it fails.
Right, because it sounds like, if anything, the way this one would break is more or less going to be an issue of heat, which, of course, mag dumping will, make it get way hotter than usual. So you'd probably assume slow firing. It could probably last, probably well over a few hundred rounds, I would assume, but...
Oh, yeah. And I mean, if the situation did arise, you could dump that thing, a full mag, and you would be fine.
Well, yeah, no, so that's a nice thing to know, I guess, as well. So I'm assuming, we're going to go with, full Glock mags, maybe, so, 32 rounds or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what some of the testers use. Ooh, I just wanted to say one more thing with that specific test. That was one of the much earlier models, which had a much thinner neck where the barrel attached. And the latest version that should be set for release, the outer geometry has been significantly changed to give it, much more sturdiness. So I expect it to, even go beyond that.
Okay. So another fun question will be, what calibers are we looking at specifically? Will there be a 22, 5.7, 300 blackout, 45 AARP? What do we got?
So the Crescent specifically was designed with 9mm pistol caliber carbines in mind, not necessarily pistols, but it holds up really well with that. And some of the testers have actually tried it with 300 BLK, and it holds up to 300 BLK.
Yeah, no.
They've got almost 30 rounds through it without it breaking. Apparently,
Subsonic
though,
or supersonic, though?
they were subs at 220 grain. And according to the beta tester, the very front of it, like the very front face, popped off after the first shot. But after that, it didn't seem to make much of a difference. It was fine.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Have you tried it with supersonic 300 blackout?
The testers have not tried it with that. I haven't printed one. I'm waiting until it's, quote unquote complete to, file the F1 and wait for it. But I'm really excited to.
300 blackout is a nice suppressed cartridge as well. So that's good to hear, if anything.
Oh, definitely. I mean, why have a 300 BLK if you can't suppress it?
I completely agree with that. But yeah, another thing too, so I guess, this won't really work with handguns. I think for handguns, you need that fun, I forgot what the device is called.
The Nielsen device / piston, I believe.
Yeah, it's something like that, but that's the way it allows it to cycle properly. Without something like that, handguns don't necessarily cycle with suppressors.
Yeah, it's a matter of weight thing. So for non-fixed barrel pistols, I believe the barrel actually has to move a little bit for the slide to cycle, and with the weight of the suppressor on the front, without that device, it's unable to do that.
So that means I think like a high point yeet cannon could technically work.
Yeah, definitely. That could work. I was thinking, I don't know much about Berettas, but I was looking at one someone posted, and is that a fixed barrel one?
I don't believe so. I believe the barrel moves, but no. High points are, they are basically fixed barrels, which is...
I have my high point here that I just built recently, and that thing is set.
Yeah, no, that's why they're so heavy, by the way. If people ever wonder why high points are heavy, it's because, they need to be heavy. There is no sort of delay mechanism whatsoever. So you kind of mentioned it earlier that this is going to be fully printed. You can, of course, add a metal insert if you really wanted to, but there's no hybrid to this. There's no external baffles or, no set screws or anything going through it.
Yes, it's just pretty much plastic. The version being released with the metal insert is just going to be a washer inserted by where the barrel is inserted. But okay. I was thinking of also doing another version that had, more spots on the sides for metal plates, more rectangular. So might do that as well for people who, want options.
I guess there's another suppressor design out there that requires a resin mix. So
oh yeah, PLA boys, the FTNs.
Right. So I don't know enough about this one, but I'm guessing there is something with resin that people are using. I'm guessing the resin's a little bit probably more heat resistant as well too, but I'm not sure.
I've had the good fortune of being able to chat with PLA Boy a bit. Great dude, cool developer. With the FTNs, that they are also single printed designs. They're printed horizontally. But they use traditional baffle designs, and I guess the epoxy coating helps aid in, the heat resistance, like you said. As far as pistol use goes, he also came up with a really, really, really smart idea for getting them to cycle with pistols, which involves drilling porting holes on the bottom. It slightly lessens the sound dampening, but it uses the gases to actually push the silencer up, allowing the barrel to cycle. It's really cool.
So I guess you're not only just sort of, you're not just reducing the pressure of the can, you're also sort of directing it in a different... Okay, I kind of can see what's going on. That is rather interesting. What are we expecting with, I guess, decibel-wise? Because the one thing about flow-through cans that I always know about is they are pretty easy to handle. They don't really require much tuning once you install them. But the one downside to them is that they are going to be usually louder than most traditional baffle designs. That they're, not to mention another thing too is you will never get a good indicator of how quiet a suppressor is using videos. It's always like it's hard to really experience. You kind of just need to hear it in person. And an issue with suppressor tests as well is the way people set up, their decibel readers. There are a lot of confounding variables with that stuff, but
definitely.
I'm assuming there was someone that's at least tried doing it. Do we have any numbers?
Yeah, so some of the testers have gotten decibel readers off of Amazon, not professional stuff. So, take
So,
everything with a grain of
so yeah,
salt for
okay. So
that.
take everything with a grain of salt. Then.
Yeah, it's not going to be as good as the testing that, like maybe Silencer Co does, but, we're trying out here. But as far as those tests go, um, the, the, the numbers seem really good, but like you said, the way it works, it can, confound it a little bit. But, one of the tests had the decibel reader set like, maybe like 10 feet behind or to the side of the person. And that was getting like, 80 decibels, like 80, 85.
That is incredible. Were they subsonic rounds?
They were 115 grain, I believe.
Okay, so chances are they're probably not subsonic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing too about OSS cans as well is that, and this is kind of a thing that usually isn't always tested. It directs the sound also more forward wise. So if you are behind the gun, it will sound significantly quieter than you would get through a traditional suppressor test because our decibel reader is usually in front of the gun, sort of. But it doesn't really necessarily tell you the full story of how quiet it could possibly be. Because usually when you're shooting the gun, you're not actually in front of the barrel. You're usually behind it.
Yeah, you don't want to be in front of the barrel when you're shooting the gun.
Correct.
But yeah, no, the OSS cans work to, direct the sound a lot, which really helps, sort of mitigate it for the shooter. I know from the beta testers, at least they reported like they've said it's a very significant difference, like when shooting with it versus without it. Like you can really hear the difference.
Another thing too to mention is, so a nice benefit of always being 3D printed is, it's probably going to be a little bit lighter. So do we have an idea of what the full weight is?
Yes, I believe the Crescent now comes in around like 380, 400 grams of total material. So it's a little hefty, a little heftier than out there, but you got to remember everything is contained within it.
Well, another thing too is, how much is a shush puppy?
I don't know.
It's
I
massive.
actually do not know.
I will say this is, the Crescent looks, even though it's pretty big, it still looks smaller than the shush puppy, which is massive.
Yeah, like one of the testers also has a shush puppy and has been like talking about like its efficacy and like that thing works. That is like a good solid like suppressor, but it is also big and in my very personal aesthetic based opinion, it's a little ugly. No offense, but it's not the prettiest.
There's something about it that almost gives off the fun like oil can suppressor type of a thing.
It's very Fallout in a way with the screws and everything.
Yeah, there was a one too because I remember it was at Napa used to sell an oil can filter that was quite literally perfect for suppressors, and I think they stopped selling it because that was what too many people were doing, because they were actually really, really good. I think there is still a catalog file where it is a mound specifically for a Napa oil can filter.
Yeah, no, the KCAD fuel filter pack.
Yeah, and another thing too is so if I'm assuming if it fired 115, chances are that was supersonic. But I know a lot of people will probably want exactly the exact methodology of, well, what was the grain, what was the powers and stuff. I mean, maybe if you have one guy that just loves reloading, maybe that'd be really nice and easy. But I'm assuming if it can handle 115, it can handle supersonics. Subsonics. This is also 9mm PCC guns, from what it sounds like to me. So a little bit makes it a little bit easier in that regard. There really isn't, I guess, because another one of these questions I saw specifically was about whether it has a piston or anything involved. So
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, I guess if you could send some pictures of, I guess, some of the ammo boxes that people have used, usually that lets you know pressures and stuff. But
I'll ask them for that if they still have it.
Yeah, because that's one of those things where I can imagine people would like it. I think it doesn't really matter too much, because if it can handle 115, it'll handle subsonics easily. But did we answer specifically? We mentioned some of the other. I asked about the other calibers, but you basically just said it was designed more for 9. I think. Did we go beyond that?
besides 300 BLK hasn't been tested beyond that. I've actually been working on a couple other designs besides the Crescent for various calibers, including I got one that I designed for 5.7, but it works fantastic with 22 LR. Like
Right.
fantastic with it.
Okay, so it can handle 5.7 and 22.
Has not been officially tested with 5.7 yet, but one of the beta testers just got one, got a rock in, so they're going to be trying it.
So yeah, then I guess it can handle 22. 22, I bet, is also 22 is just a nice cartridge to have suppressed. It's already sort of quiet anyways, so if you can get it even quieter, it becomes whether I even need to put on Ear Pro or not, and that's always really, really nice. When you lose your hearing, it doesn't come back. So are they shooting it out of the 9mm can with the 22, or was it just, is there a 22 specific?
There was a 22 specific one.
Okay, yeah, because I would assume it could fire through a 9mm can, but that kind of, would sort of probably not be as nice.
Yeah, the contour of the barrel, or I guess the words are hard sometimes.
I know.
The tightness of the fit of the bullet as it travels through does make a big difference.
There's a question I'm reading right now where they don't want to talk bad about the resilience of 3D printing, but it's more or less of, is there an exposed metal part that someone could do the engraving in case it were fail? So what I'm assuming they're kind of saying is, if the print were to fail, I don't even know if this is the right legal way of saying this. I'm not a lawyer. Who knows?
But if the monocore breaks, it would still be able to contain the serial. The legalese exactly of how it works, I'm not exactly sure. So I'm just going to say as a blanket statement, asterisk, only prints the one that you serialize and just have that one officially. Yeah.
No, it's just, I would, that is a reasonable thing to possibly say. I don't know. That's a hypothetical situation. We love playing hypotheticals here, but yeah, I would assume something along the lines of like threading. Could the threading device be serialized or something like that? Maybe I want to say, I think there's one company that sort of has like the barrel attachment thing, so it's like you can swap certain things, but essentially it's not necessarily the compensator and flash hider that they attach to, but it's like this. See, I don't know enough about suppressors, so I feel like this is the worst.
With like the legal stuff, it's so complicated.
Because I know there's one company that has it in a really cool way where there's like one part that you thread on, and then you can unthread, I guess, the baffle part, sort of.
Oh, yeah, the multi-part one where it's like the entire part, including the outside contained, and then you just screw them onto each other. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is going to be really annoying for people that do know what they're talking about, because this is right now the blind leading the blind. I'd rather not try to be, the ATF interpreter for this one. But
yeah, I've asked a few questions to somebody who actually is a lawyer and knows a few things. So I've luckily been getting some help and guidance in terms of like documentation stuff for that.
But I'm guessing, that is one strategy is, of course, you could serialize it and, maybe how that works. But I bet that's not the answer people probably want to hear about.
Playing around with the idea of a serialized, like a device that, is the part that connects the barrel to the Crescent is something I played around with. And, that I think potentially for, 3D printed, I'm just gonna say, I like calling 3D printed suppressors bottles rather than cans. I just like the differentiation, so I'm gonna call them bottles. But I think with like the potential for like 3D printed bottles and all that sort of stuff is like, if we can figure out something with like a device like that, that opens up a ton of possibilities. I mean, there's the universal mounting device already. If there was a 3D printed, version of that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, no, and I guess if anything, I feel like this would be probably the best thing for some lawyer to probably go for. Let me see if we have.
I think regarding the serialization part more, I know at least on the picture on the catalog of the Shush Puppy, it looks like there is a metal part inserted that was serialized. And plus, on like the FOSCAD subreddit, people have reported being able to, get their Form 1s done for it. So I think strictly speaking, and, serializing a metal part and attaching it, should work. But, I think it also matters the way it is attached. The way that the washer system works now, it actually has a lip that prints over it. So it's supposed to stop it mid-print, put it in there, and then let it resume.
Okay, yeah. For me, I guess, that's one of those. I like to see what happens. I don't know myself really either how this stuff works, but honestly, if I'm going to print a design, this probably is the best one so far seen.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm really eager for its launch and to see how it works with others, once they get their Form 1s or, even if they are in America. One of the things I set off with this was I wanted to make it, as compatible for people who don't live in America as, I could. And so I've been trying to come up with different ways to be able to attach it to an unthreaded FGC9, for example. And right now I have two, major ways. One is using a mountable flanged clamp. I'm pronouncing that wrong. I can't say that word.
On the eye of flanges, that's cool.
Yeah, that attaches the barrel. Then you actually insert screws into it. And I actually have another design. I posted a preview of it on Twitter a little bit back, but is actually a FGC9 handguard that has holes for a 70 millimeter by M5 screw, I believe, to go through and thread into it.
Interesting.
So it attaches directly to the gun itself.
Okay.
Dev recently came out with a design called the Freebird mount, which basically uses an A2 flash hider as well as a castle nut to attach a buffer tube to the very front of it, which I think that is huge. That is a huge development. Like, this is incredible. And I'm really excited to see what happens with that. But I've actually gotten the step file with that, and I'm working on a design for 22356 silencer, very much a similar design to the Crescent. So hopefully once my testers get a hold of that, it works and doesn't explode.
So this one, in theory, would use probably one of the most standard AR flash hiders out there, the A2 birdcage.
Yeah. And for the design I'm working on, that is also fully printed, other than the hose clamp that it uses. It also uses the hose clamp, but
the possibility.
Oh yeah, gotta love the hose clamp. But as far as using like a buffer tube as a potential, like in place of a fuel can, that I think that's huge. That is really big in terms of possibilities.
In that case, yeah, it'd probably be able to handle a lot more pressure, and not just pressure, heat as well.
Yes, definitely.
This is your design out there. Someone else could probably make it a little bit better, but at least you're the ones getting the ball rolling, right?
Yeah, this is, I think, enough of a departure with what's been done already in terms of 3D printed silencers that I hope it will inspire others. When the Crescent releases, I'm actually releasing I call it the gyro baffle. It's the main blast baffle that was included with it. I'm including it as a step file on its own for other people to mess around, play with it, or put it in their designs. Just, I put RGB all over all my stuff, but I'm not really in it for the ego. I just want people to make cool stuff. And if this can inspire others to make something even better, that's amazing. I'm happy with that.
I think that's a great way to end it off, if anything, too.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for showing up for this. And, if people even have more questions than that, perhaps when it releases, we can have a fun little live stream with it, too. Wow, I could have ended that better. Oh, well. As mentioned in the beginning, I'll do a quick little update of things that have changed since this was recorded. The Crescent cannot handle supersonic 300 blackout. However, it can handle subsonic 300 blackout. It was mentioned earlier when the Crescent would fire subsonic 300 blackout that the front end of the suppressor would break. That has been fixed in later versions, so the Crescent can now fire subsonic 300 blackout without many issues. There has also been several other minor changes as well, as with most betas. I look forward to seeing the final release for the Crescent, and I hope to speak to Ruby again once it does release. If you have any questions about the Crescent, leave a comment below. And if there are other projects you want to hear more about, leave a comment below as well. I look forward to doing more of these type of videos in the near future. I forgot how to end videos. Okay, like and share? I guess click the other links in the description. Yeah, do that. I don't know. Alright, see you guys later.